single feeling has a message for me. Every single feeling loves me. It comes from me. And so even just saying that some of them are bad are saying parts of me are bad.
Hmm. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Alive. Today's guest is Kristin Wald. Kristin is a professionally trained life, career, and relationship coach focused on empowering people to level up their lives. Kristin's journey is a tapestry of diverse experiences that has shaped her into the powerhouse she is today. From a role as a strategy consultant in a Fortune Global 500 firm, optimizing pharma R&D processes worldwide, to pioneering corporate learning and development for a top Hollywood talent agency, and even managing ambitious real estate projects in Los Angeles, Kristin's journey is anything but ordinary. Armed with a bachelor's in medical microbiology and immunology from the University of Wisconsin, Kristin's innovative spirit led her to become a patented inventor with a product showcased on HSN and nominated for a Global Innovation Award. She's even embraced the spotlight as a stand-up comedian, performing at iconic venues like the Hollywood Improv and the Comedy Store. But beneath these remarkable achievements lies a journey of personal growth. Overcoming perfectionism, Kristin now empowers others through life coaching. She continues to spread positivity, empowerment, and transformation through her coaching, helping her clients step into a life they love. Kristin, welcome to Alive.
So happy to be here.
Me too. I'm so excited to be doing this episode with you where we're going to be speaking all about emotions.
Yes, powerful, powerful tools.
Yes. And I also do want to add that Kristin is actually my life coach too. So I've been working with her for, I think, about 6 months now, right?
Yeah, it's been incredible to work with you and like watch the journey.
Yeah. And just a lot of concepts that I've been learning with you. And I'm like, I want everyone to have access to these concepts. And so today we're going to be really talking about decoding emotions. And in the past, Kristin, you've kind of told me about how emotions serve as an internal messaging system. So can you kind of explain about that? What does that look like?
Absolutely. So I'll share a little bit about my journey with emotions and how I got there. So I used to think of kind of emotions as difficult or energy draining. I actually had some pretty negative thoughts, even like, well, people who are angry, they just don't have personal growth, like they don't understand. So I was kind of an emotion hater, to be honest. It was like anger is not healthy, sadness is exhausting. So it's like all about being happy. And I completely missed the mark on all of that. And it wasn't until I had a collapse of my own that I started understanding that my emotions were the internal messaging system between my soul or inner child and my adult self or my body. Emotions are felt in the body. And so that was the communication between my inner child and my adult self.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. So like I'm curious to know, like, how did that change happen? Like that change in perception. How did that even happen?
Yeah. So I want to be really thoughtful here. So my collapse was basically I had complete nervous system overload. Even like smell was too much, taste was too much, like everything felt like too much. And when I got taken down to the basics of just wake up, be alive, and go to sleep, I started to understand that each feeling that was coming back online was trying to tell me something.
Mm.
I started feeling fear for the first time. you know, I was called fearless up until age 30 because anything I wanted to do, I just went for. You know, oh, I want to be in strategy consulting. Okay, go get a job there. I want to go do stand-up comedy. Okay, just start doing stand-up. I want to, you know, it was just like whatever I wanted to go do is like listen to the impulse and go, or listen to the intuition and go.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the collapse where I was like, oh, I'm afraid. It was the first time I really started feeling fear and not ignoring it, not shoving it down, but just saying, I'm scared. And I started understanding, you know, it was even in the slightest of moments. I remember, you know, going to a workout class and I was afraid to be late.
Okay.
Even that simple. And the fear, it was like, just shove it down. Don't think about it. Just get there versus, whoa, I am afraid. I'm afraid I'll be late. I'm afraid of eating that new food. I don't know how my body will react. I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing. And it was fascinating to start watching feelings and even anger. I was like, I'm really angry about how this person treated me. Whoa, how does anger feel in my body? What is the anger trying to tell me? And it was starting to like decode each of these feelings as this loving energy that was just trying to help me connect more deeply with myself.
Wow. Wow. And so what was interesting you just said there was like, what does anger feel like in my body? So what is that relationship between, the mind and the body when it comes to emotions?
Yeah, so for me, the fact they're called feelings, they
Yeah.
feel. And so I thought they were all a mental game.
Okay.
Just, oh, there's anger, you're above it. That's what I always thought. You're above anger. Anger is for people who don't, have wisdom or have awareness. No, not true. Anger is it's a mama bear. It's loving, it's protective. It wants me to be safe. It wants me to stand up for myself. It wants me to take care of myself. And so pausing when a feeling comes up has been the most empowering experience for me, because noticing that feelings are in the body. So for example, trying to think of a good example. Yesterday, here's a good example. Yesterday, I was just sad. I just felt sadness. And it was checking in. What does sad feel like in my body? It's heavy. It just wants hugs. It wants to be wrapped up in blankets. It wants patience. It wants nurturing. It just wants to be held. And it doesn't want to be in a rush. It doesn't want to be told you can't be sad anymore. And so just sitting with, okay, sadness feels heavy and just wanting that like loving, gentle nurturing. And then tapping into each of those feelings and understanding, okay, fear feels a little bit like vibrating in my body. Fear is like, okay, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to handle this. What do we need? How do we need to protect ourselves? Connecting with that feeling. So noticing how the body responds to each of these stimuli like has been a game changer with how deeply I can love myself.
Okay. That is so interesting. I remember when I first started working with you, I was so like just not tapped into the body. I was so in the mind space. I still am, and I'm really trying to focus to come and like ground myself in the body and kind of observe like what you're saying. So just observing how you're feeling. And I think a big factor of that is just for me at least was just always being on autopilot mode. Feeling anger and being like if I'm in an argument with someone, if I feel angry, my autopilot or my natural reaction is to scream or talk louder or talk more aggressively. And I remember when I start working with you, was more of like just observing that. And then I came back to you and I'm like, Kristin, I don't want to be this way. This isn't who I want to be. When I have children, I want to make sure that they are calm, they are grounded, they know what they're feeling. And so, what are your thoughts on how our early life experiences really shape our emotional responses and coping mechanisms in adulthood?
Beautiful question. So much of my journey has been really diving into that. So I'll talk from personal experience because that's where I live. As a child, I was like a highly capable child. So it was kind of like everything I touched, like in a weird way, like turned to gold. Like I want to be on the volleyball team, I get on the volleyball team. I want to be on the basketball team, I get on the basketball team. I want to be an artist, I'm suddenly an artist. It was just, I want to be in the advanced classes, I'm in the advanced classes. Mm-hmm. And that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
However, I realized that I never learned to ask for help. I never learned how to be afraid. I never learned the power of anger. I never learned sadness. I never learned that like disappointment, like, and not learning those basic skills really set me up for a really challenging adult relationship with feelings. Like learning how to ask for help has been one of the greatest challenges, I would say, in my adult life. It still feels like bending metal when I'm like, hey, can you help me carry in the groceries? Oh God. And so I would say that, you know, one of my passions would be helping children like learn how to feel feelings in a very productive, thoughtful manner. And I would say that even shifting the language around anger, instead of saying I'm angry at, I'm angry that, I'm angry about. Same thing with sad. Like we never say I'm sad at.
Yeah.
I'm afraid at.
Right.
I'm sad that, I'm afraid that. And so even just the verbiage around anger, I think I wish I had had more tools around feelings when I was a child so that I could better understand, oh, it's of course you're afraid. You're going to the first day of school. Of course you are. It's brand new. There's going to be all sorts of new things.
Right.
Well, of course you're angry. That didn't go the way you wanted it to go. But what are we angry about? Versus you're angry at.
Right.
And then starting to understand that anger is trying to love me and protect me and have me stand up for me. And so then having, you know, an anger room in my house as a child would have been amazing, where I get to throw a ball and hit a blanket against a couch, or start to understand, oh, I'm really actually afraid. I'm afraid that I'm not going to stand up for myself. I'm afraid I'm going to be taken advantage of. I'm afraid that someone's going to hurt me. And understanding that anger is just trying to protect the more vulnerable feelings of sadness and fear. And so it's a really productive feeling.
That is so powerful, like so powerful. When I started talking to you about anger, I had always associated anger as a bad emotion. And your perspective shift for me about being angry at someone versus angry about made me look at that specific situation with like an entirely different lens. And so I've been playing with anger a lot. Like you even saying that anger is a protection mechanism. It's something that's there to help you, right? It's just been so powerful for me. And that shift. And also coming back to the concept of, are there good versus bad emotions, you know? I always considered anger, fear as bad emotions. I don't want to feel them. I want, like you said in the beginning, shove them away, you know, just don't want to feel them. So, what are your thoughts on good versus bad emotions?
Yeah, it breaks my heart when I see social media posts or I hear, you know, someone sharing that there are good or bad feelings. feelings. There are positive or negative feelings. It genuinely breaks my heart, mostly because of my own journey of coming back to the body and realizing how every single emotion loves the shit out of me. It's like basically saying that parts of me that love me are bad. Like that just doesn't add up. And so for me, I would say that I would love to change that entire conversation. Every single feeling has a message for me. Every single feeling loves me. It comes from me. And so even just saying that some of them are bad are saying parts of me are bad. And that just is completely opposite of the whole journey of coming back to self, of coming back to loving yourself. And so I think back to when I was 12, my mom almost passed away from a very kind of freak illness. It was like one of those that overnight you're alive, and then next thing you know, you're in ICU in an induced coma. Yeah, it was a wild experience for a 12-year-old. And I will say I did not cry once. The entire time she was in the hospital for 3 weeks in an induced coma, I didn't cry that whole year. I wasn't afraid. It was just during that period of time, I got on the gymnastics team, the softball team, the dance team, and it wasn't only a dance team, but advanced dance and straight A's. My mechanism for not feeling was doing and achieving. And so I achieved and did and kept so busy that I didn't feel those feelings for 2 years. And then one night, but mind you, the emotions don't go away. Just because I'm not feeling them doesn't mean they just vanish. They're just in a nice little storehouse. I imagine it as like shoving a feeling over a concrete wall. And you just keep shoving them over until one day they're so big that they collapse the wall and fall on top of me. And that's what my collapse was recently, was just all these emotions I had thrown over the wall. They don't go away. They're just waiting. And so sure enough, one night, 2 years later, I am sitting at dinner with my family. My mom survived, and she was stronger than ever afterwards. Took like a year of recovery, but we're all sitting at the dinner table and my dad turns on a CD. Yes, those existed. And I'm sitting there having a normal conversation like this, and I start sobbing. And I asked my dad, what is going on? Why am I crying? What's happening? And he was like, that's the CD we played in your mom's hospital room.
Oh, wow.
And so the fear and grief that I didn't feel was all being stored. So I had to feel it at some point. And so fear then became a massive journey in high school of just understanding what the fear was, seeing all the mechanisms to control the fear. And then once again, the grief, like having space for grief. And because I didn't feel those in the moment, which thank God, that's a different conversation, but thank God I didn't, because I wouldn't have survived. So there is a gorgeous, the fact that I didn't feel them in the moment at that time in my life, that was a protective mechanism. But I will say that, you know, there's a phrase that says grief is the love that you aren't able to give, or the love that you aren't able to share. And for me, grief is also mourning the loss. And there was a lot of loss that I wasn't ready to feel, but it didn't go anywhere. It was just waiting to be felt.
Wow. That's so powerful. And just your sort of imagery with throwing the feelings over the concrete wall, and one day it just kind of collapsing. Like, oh my God, I just love your imagery. There is this concept that we once talked about having all your crayons in one box when it comes to emotions. Like, could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite metaphors that came to me one day. I realized that I was working with a client that was having a very hard time seeing that fear, anger, and grief or sadness were valuable feelings that were trying to provide messages, and just wanting to be in, you hear this a lot in a spiritual community of like love and light. So like just wanting to be in love and light and joy and peace and harmony. And that's also, it just breaks my heart hearing those messaging too, that it's all love and light. No, it's not. Like that's not true. We have all of the range of feelings. So the image that came to me was, we don't put the purple and blue and dark green in one box and then put the yellow and orange and pink in a different box. All the colors belong in one box, one container of feelings. And I can't draw a dynamic picture with only some of the crayons. I need all of the crayons, all of the colors to draw the most dynamic picture of my life. So every crayon serves a purpose. Every color serves an intention with creating this beautiful image of my life.
That's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. Now, so each crayon is basically an emotion. What does each emotion signify? So we know like the obvious, like joy means you're happy. But like what about anger, sadness? What is it that each of these signify? And what do they need from us to be processed?
Yes. This has been one of the most fun discoveries, is that every feeling is communicating a need. So when I started communicating with my feelings, I was like, oh, hey, fear, what's up? I can feel that kind of tightness in my chest. I can feel the kind of vibrating feeling. What's going on? And the fear was asking for reassurance. So I sometimes think of fear as, a flag system like you would see on the beach. There's white flag, it's like good to go. We're good to go. It's all good. And then like yellow is like, hey, there's some wind. Just watch out. And then there's orange, which is like, this is a lot. And then red is stop, turn around. Mm-hmm. So once I started understanding that fear had kind of a grade system in my body of, don't walk down that dark alley, that's a red. That's just a hard pass, versus yellow, which is like, I'm afraid I'm going to be late to this workout class. Mm-hmm. So once I started understanding that the fear was saying, hey, Kristin, I love you a lot. There's unknown ahead, and I don't know how to protect us in it. I don't know what's ahead, and I just want you to know that so that you can kind of watch, just be extra aware. Mm-hmm. Oh, so now let's say that there's a yellow flag, which is like, hey, you're going to be late to workout class. Or maybe an orange flag is, hey, we're going into this event. We don't know anyone, and that's scary. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if people are going to be nice or not. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now I talk back to that fear. I would like sometimes even just put my hands on my heart and just say, oh, fear, I love you. Thank you so much for letting me know that unknown is ahead. You are so good at letting me know that. I'm here. I'm paying attention. It's okay if we're late, or it's okay if we go to this party. We can leave if we need to leave. I'm being fully responsive to you, being responsive to myself to make sure that I'm paying attention. Thank you for letting me know I need to pay attention. So that would be my conversation with fear. Sadness is asking for sweetness, patience, love, nurturing, nourishment. So even yesterday, I was just feeling sad, and I didn't need to translate the sadness of why am I sad? What's going on going into the brain? I needed to stay in the body and just say, it's okay to be sad. Mm. And so yesterday I made sure I was surrounded by people I love. And I went and hung out with my family. We did I did a fun activity with my mom. I made sure that I just spent some time on the couch, just curled up on the couch. I ate really nourishing food, connected with a friend who's traveling right now. So I I can then be responsive to my sadness by giving it what it's asking for. I went to bed extra early so I could just give myself that sweet, nourishing, nurturing that it needs. Anger for me is asking. It's like, hey, Kristin, just want to give you a heads up. You didn't stand up for yourself. You didn't protect yourself. I need you to go into action to protect yourself. I love you. I want to make sure that you are aware that we need to take better care of ourselves. Cool. Hey, anger. Like, so for example, let's say I get triggered in my relationship with my husband. Something happens. I'll give a more specific example because that's more fun. He got frustrated that I was running late to an event. I felt anger just surge up in my body. And I was like, whoa, okay, what are we angry about? Not angry at. What are we angry about? What are you trying to tell me to defend myself about? What's going on? And I put my hands on my heart and I'm like, what's up? What's up? And we're in the car on the way to the event. And I tell my husband, hey, some anger's coming up. I want to just check in with it to ask it what it needs. And so he gives me that space and I like check in. I'm like, what's going on? And the anger was like, he was late to the past 2 events that you asked him to go to. And then he asked you to be on time to his event. We need a boundary. And so a lot of times anger is asking for a boundary or saying that a boundary has been violated. And so there's a feeling of, I'm afraid that this is going to keep happening. I'm afraid that we're going to keep feeling like our boundaries aren't respected. Oh, I hear you, fear. Thank you for letting me know. I will take better care of ourselves. I will let him know that this is going on and that we need better boundaries in the future. And so now, if I said that anger was bad or sadness was bad or fear was bad, I would be neglecting all of that messaging.
Right.
So now I can communicate in a thoughtful way with my husband. Hey, I'm having some big feelings coming up around, you were late to these 2 events and then asking me to be on time. And I just would like to set a better boundary that if I have an event, you're on time to my events and I'm on time to your events. Just being more thoughtful with each other to honor each other's boundaries.
Wow.
Then it becomes a conversation of feeling and then asking for what I need.
Wow. Oh my God. There were so many gold nuggets in that. I think, so when I first started learning about this concept from you, and there might be a couple of people who are watching this and they're like, I have to talk to myself, like it's such an uncomfortable feeling of just going in and being like, oh, hello, fear. How are you? Like, it's just such a, like, did you face that when you started like talking to yourself and talking to your feelings, or did it come naturally to you?
That's a great question. It was a definite work in progress. Because shifting the awareness that the feeling isn't a thought, it's actually a feeling in the body, and knowing that it's trying to tell me something. The image I got when I thought about it was like my inner child. And I know that might be a concept to dive into, but I imagined the young version of me tugging on my pant leg and being like, hey, I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared. And being like, hey, shh, we don't have time to be afraid. We have to go do this. Or oh, I'm so mad. 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 And being like, shh, we don't have time. Or sad. And just being like, sorry, we don't have time for that. We got to go. We got to go. And just the grief I felt of that neglecting of that little version of me, just tugging on my pant leg. So now I think of a feeling as my little self, my inner child, tugging on my pant leg. And it just helped me see the feeling as that, hey, Kristin, hey, I really want to just let you know something. And for me to abandon myself by not paying attention became more painful than the silliness of checking in. The thought of saying to that inner child, shh, not now. like broke my heart. And I look at like things as scale. So the scale of silliness of talking to the feelings became less important than the need to communicate with that voice that's trying to help me.
Right.
And so that's when I remember the first time I was sitting in the car and I started feeling fear of getting like stuck in traffic, for example. I just started feeling this like vibrating feeling in my chest. I remember going, oh boy, here we go. Like, let's go ahead and try it. Hey, fear. Of course, we're afraid. We don't know if there's going to be really bad traffic. Of course, we don't know that. Of course, we're afraid. The brain doesn't like the unknown. Okay. Yeah, I know we're going to be afraid. It's okay. I love you and I'm paying attention and I'm going to be here right by your side through everything. And I noticed the entire feeling came down. If it was like a 7, it came down to like a 3. And I was like, whoa, it worked. And so watching it work was the catalyst to continue playing with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, so watching you in our sessions do it, like watching you do really tap into your feelings and your needs, really taught me how to do it. I think for me, the first step to really navigating my emotions was very like identifying when I'm having big feelings. So it's like, okay, wait, I'm feeling something right now. Maybe I don't know if it's anger, fear, or sadness or what I need, but I think that first step was really identifying I'm feeling big feelings. So, as someone who's watching this for the first time, if you were to give them a step-by-step guide of like how to navigate your emotions, and the first step is really identifying big feelings, then what do you do? Like step by step after that.
I love that. I just want to share too that knowing that by neglecting feelings, they don't go away, they just get stored up. That was also a really important piece. That was like, oh, I just don't want to neglect anymore because I know they don't go away. They just are waiting in the background to come and show up. And the image I got for that was like some people have like septic tanks where they have like, you know, they go to the bathroom and it just is stored in a tank under their house. And the image was every feeling I didn't feel just gets put into that, like every turd, every feeling just kind of gets stored up to the point where something so small, the tiniest piece of toilet paper, could cause a massive overflow into my house and into my life and onto all my loved ones in the most unassuming time. And so that's where now I consciously drain my septic tank very often, sometimes daily, so that I don't have an accidental overflow where all of my loved ones are covered in turds. So that's another really important piece, that now I see the importance of that regular checking in with feelings so that they don't overflow in inconvenient times.
Right.
So that's one of those, like, this isn't optional for me anymore because I don't want to vomit big feelings on people who don't deserve that treatment.
Yeah.
And then that negatively impacts my relationships, which is no bueno. So anyway, my step-by-step guide. So I'm going to try to relate it back to a specific. Okay. So, okay, so I'm going to use, so if we don't, okay, so like, let's just say that, like, so yesterday, I just felt this heaviness, this icky heaviness. So just noticing, even just for 1 second, maybe my behavior changes. Maybe I don't want to go down to the grocery store to get almond milk. Like, just something is just like, ugh, I just don't want to. Starting to even notice how my behavior is impacted, or maybe I don't want to grab my laptop to go do that work thing, or maybe I'm just feeling blah. Just starting with blah. Like, there's no words to it. It's just a blah. Right there, if I have the awareness to pause and not start acting from the blah, but to pause and check in with the blah. So even if I can't name it, checking in with it. So when I felt the blah and I didn't want to go grab my laptop, I was like, ooh, something's going on here. I don't want to get my laptop. I don't want to refill my tea. Okay, pause. The pause is life-changing. What's going on here? And then just feeling, I start to pay attention to what feelings feel like in my body. So for me, sadness is just almost like being covered by like a heavy blanket. Like it just kind of feels heavy and there's a heaviness in my chest. It just feels, ugh. If I was to put a sound to it, just ugh. And so then that pause, what's going on here? I don't know. I just feel sad. Cool. I don't need to know why.
Okay.
Trying to translate it in that moment goes back to the brain and takes me out of the body. And so that's where I start to ask the sadness, what do you need today? And then that's when I know that sadness is asking for nurturing, nourishing, patience, and love.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I go into action for those needs. So I let the sadness know, I see you, I hear you. Let's start planning our day around that. Where can we add some extra love? Where can we add some extra sweetness? Where can we connect with a loved one? Where can we wrap ourselves in blankets? Even if I'm at the office, where can I take a walk and just connect with nature? So just starting to realize what that feeling needs. Now, anger, I would say, I'll give a specific example. I shared a service provider with some family members. And this person that I shared with them is like, I respect so much. Like, just, they are just rock stars at what they do. And this person showed up and helped them, and they didn't like what this person provided. And I felt rage. I felt it vibrating in my body. I felt this adrenaline rush go from my feet to my head. And once again, it's not, I remember being in the car and being like, like I'm so angry. And in that moment, pause. That's the gift, is that pause. I'm not angry at them. I'm angry that. And I ask, what am I angry about? I'm angry that I shared a sacred person with people and they didn't like them. I'm angry that I shared someone that's important to me with people who I knew wouldn't respect that gift. I violated my own boundary. So then I have to come back and apologize to myself. I'm so sorry I shared someone important to me with people who weren't going to respect that person. Because typically anger is for me, it's how I violated my own boundaries or how I need to better serve and protect myself. So it's just starting the conversation. So even if a step-by-step is, oof, okay, oof, what's going on here? I'm angry that. I'm afraid that. I'm sad that. Okay, now, if I know that fear needs reassurance, hi, my love, it's okay that we're going to be late to bar class. Even if we get turned away, it's safe. Or sadness. I hear that you're sad. Let's schedule a couple calls with friends today to acknowledge that we're sad and we need some extra nurturing. Anger. Hey, I see that we kind of messed that one up. We shared someone special with people who weren't going to appreciate their specialness. I'll do better next time. And so that's where, like, if there was like a flow, it's what's that feeling? hey feeling, okay, now if I have the wherewithal, like if I have the space to translate the feeling, then I go into action for the need.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
100% it does. That is so important. Um, and the step-by-step guide, like it has made a big difference in my life specifically. And I feel like it almost comes back to like that childlike curiosity about yourself. Like who am I? What am I feeling in these moments? And then really going into that awareness, like you said, the first step, that awareness. Um, and I feel like what you've given to people is literally like a cheat code, like fear. You're feeling fear, nurture. Oh, sorry, you're feeling sadness, then nurture yourself. Like give yourself love. With anger, you're feeling angry. What is it about? Create a boundary, right? So it's almost like, and it's crazy that we're not taught these things, and I'm just like, it's it's so important to be able to identify these things and coming back into yourself, tapping back into who you are and what you need in these moments. It's just amazing, Kristin. Like you have changed my life literally, like in these 6 months. It has been it's been a blessing that I've got to work with you. Um, if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Kristin W Coaching, my website, kristinwald.com. And I have all my contact information there to reach out to connect.
Yes. And I would highly recommend you do reach out to Kristin. She's always there to just chat too. So yeah, thank you so much guys for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Until next time, thank you. Bye.
Stress is our friend. Stress is preparing us. So even in the fight flight situation, when there's a perceived threat, we can actually perceive that as like, thank you, body, for helping me here. I'm actually okay. It was just some person that cut in front of me in the car. They may well be in a hurry. They may need to get to the hospital. It's not about me. I don't have to